Hello and welcome to Archive West Texas. I'm your host, Gordon Wilkerson. We're pleased today to be joined by a special guest, Helen Jarman. Helen and her husband Ed were two individuals who made lasting contributions to the Lubbock community on the cultural, educational, and civic fronts through decades of service, both in roles with the city and volunteer roles, and also in our educational system. Helen is retired and living in Jacksonville, Florida. She recently celebrated her 100th birthday, so we're happy to have her with us today to share some perspective on her and her husband's service to our community. Helen, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So what's it feel like to be 100 years old?
I don't know, Gordon. Not much different than 99 was.
Well, you look great, and we appreciate you taking time to talk with us this morning. We're going to spend the first part of our time together today talking about you and your background, and then your work in the Lubbock community. But tell us where you were born.
I was born in Neosho, Missouri.
And then your family moved to Little Rock not too long after that. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think when I was about 2.
All right. Tell us about your mom and dad and any siblings that you had.
Well, my mom and dad were Millard and Lucy Marion, and he was a veteran of World War I. And that's where they met, in Little Rock, when he was stationed there.
All right. Did you have siblings?
I had one brother whose name was Paul,
Okay.
and he was the drum major at Little Rock High School.
What do you remember about growing up in Little Rock in the late 20s, early 30s? You were there in the Depression era. Tell us what that was like.
Well, because of our farm, a small 5-acre farm, and because of my mother's working for the state, we really didn't feel the hardships of the Depression that some of our neighbors did.
Grateful for that. What did you enjoy studying in school?
Oh, probably the home ec classes, particularly the sewing.
So you're a graduate of Little Rock High School.
That's right. I graduated through what was called the accelerated program, which let me have a year at junior college, and then I was given my high school graduation. So what would have been my senior year, I was at junior college
And where was the junior college?
in Little
In
Rock.
Little Rock also. But ultimately you transferred to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville.
Right.
And that's where you met Ed.
That's where I met Ed
Tell me how you
after
met Ed.
the war.
Tell me how you met Ed.
Well, I was acting as hostess at the BSU building, and so he was delivering ice cream from the college creamery, and so I met him there.
Was this a whirlwind romance or how long did you date before you got married?
Well, he dated one of my roommates for a while, and then when he asked me out, I asked her if she cared, and she said no, she didn't care anything about him. And so I said yes, and We dated till both of us graduated from UT, and then were married after our graduation.
All right. So how do you and Ed make it from Tennessee to Lubbock, Texas?
Well, we were in Tennessee with him teaching for about 5 years, and then we went to Blairsville, Georgia, where he worked at the experiment station. And then from Blairsville, Georgia, we were left to come to Lubbock. And it was because one of Ed's college professors recommended to the professor here that he hire Ed, and so he was hired over the telephone.
There you go. So what was his job at Tech?
Oh, he was teaching. In the ag department at the dairy. He was teaching dairy science of different cheese making and so forth.
I remember they used to make ice cream over there.
Right.
Yeah. So did you know anything about Texas, or did you know anything about Lubbock, or did you just get in the car and load up and move here?
Well, we just came. One day we had never heard of Lubbock, Texas, and about a week later, we were on the road headed this way.
What were your first impressions?
Our first impression was uh, how green things were when we had expected them to be all brown. But as we were driving down the highway, and here were all these green fields, and then we learned that it was because of the irrigation system. We expected things to be here uh, much drier than they were.
You probably saw some of that dryness over your time here, I would guess.
Yes, at times. But when I left uh, Lubbock, we were in a restriction for it not even watering the yard.
That's true. Water's become has always been a vital resource, but been more pronounced in recent years and decades. I think this would be a good time for us to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about your work with the city and Parks and Rec and Garden and Arts Center and all those good things. I want to remind our listeners that if you have a future suggestion for a guest on Archive West Texas, please email us at info@classical1057.org. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Archive West Texas. We're having a great conversation today with Helen Jarman, a longtime Lubbock resident. Helen, you were actually one of the first, maybe the first, female employee at the City of Lubbock in the Parks and Recreation Department.
Well, not in the department because there were women in the office, but I was the first one to be in park maintenance and working in the park.
Now, how did you come to secure that job?
I had been volunteering and working in the flower beds around the Garden and Arts Center, and Rusty Black was in charge of that area, and he saw what I had been doing and felt like that I could work in the department as a maintenance worker.
So you were responsible for flower beds in all the park, and also at the time, I think the city had some really nice flower beds in University Avenue, or
right, and also down near the Civic Center, there was there were beds.
so you were responsible for planting and maintaining and watering.
Well, not completely responsible, but I did a lot. I mean, there were other people working also, but not other women, but men in the maintenance department that we worked together.
So what happened to all those flower beds and flower boxes?
I guess they just decided it was not worth the money that it was costing to maintain them. Plus, as you were talking about the water, there was a water system situation. You had to keep them watered also.
Well, they'd added a lot of beauty to the public space in Lubbock.
Right. Yes. And I think there's still some of them in some of the medians.
What you
And
what did you enjoy most about that job?
what did I enjoy most? Uh, just just seeing the beauty when things did go well and seeing how much other people enjoyed them.
What made you volunteer at the Garden and Art Center? That sounds like that might have been sort of what kicked your involvement off with that.
I can't really remember. I think it may have been because Ed was in men's garden club, and the men's garden club met there at that time, but I'm not sure. I just know when I became involved, Georgia Booker was the director, and she welcomed me and gave me things I could do, and so I
So
stayed there for a good number of years.
take us back to that era. I remember reading about. I think it happened maybe before my time, but for many years Lubbock was voted the cleanest city in Texas, and I guess at some point in time there were a number of garden clubs and a very active gardening and beautification component of the Lubbock community.
Yes, there were, at one time I think there were about 20 garden clubs in Lubbock, and also at Tech, Ed Zukakis had a chrysanthemum area that was quite large that people enjoyed. And besides the just garden clubs, there was the Gladiola Society, and then later the Mum Society, and also the Dahlia Society. Uh,
So
but
these were societies for individual flowers that people specialized in.
right,
So what happened to that dynamic?
I really don't know. I really, women going to work for one thing. Uh, People, I think, being more interested in uh, making money perhaps than in beautification. I really don't know.
Okay. Now you were also instrumental in establishing the Arboretum, or at least in caring for it.
In caring for it, yes.
What were the origins of the Arboretum in Lubbock?
What was what?
What were the origins? Who started the Arboretum?
Mrs. Nat Williams. Uh, Nat Williams was a school superintendent, and Georgia Williams, his wife, had been a background of of an arboretum someplace else, and she thought Lubbock should have one. And she talked to, I've forgotten the name of the park superintendent was then, but in talking to him and getting support for some other uh, local people, it was established as a memorial so people could give money or have trees planted in memory of someone.
What are some of your favorite trees in the
Uh,
Arboretum? Or what kind of trees do we have in the Arboretum at Lubbock that the average citizen wouldn't know we had?
oh, well, goodness. Jujube is one. Golden rain tree is another that people might not be familiar with. And there are some huge elm trees in Lubbock that were planted by the CCC. And there are some of those on the Arboretum.
And for any of our listeners that don't know, the Arboretum is just east of University Avenue, somewhere around 42nd Street. Is that right? Or
Right between 34th and 50th.
between 34th and 50th, just west of Clapp Park. It's a very nice
Right.
place to spend an
It,
afternoon.
it is really part of Clapp Park. I mean, they all join together.
Altogether.
Right.
And I think it's maybe most prominently featured in the community these days as the site of the Halloween jack-o'-lantern walk. So
Right. Right.
that's a good event a lot of kids enjoy. Helen, I think this might be another time for us to take a quick break. Would like to remind our listeners that all of our archived West Texas episodes, including this show, are available on demand in our station app and also on our website at classical1057.org. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Archive West Texas. We're continuing our conversation today with Helen Jarman. We've talked a little bit about her early life experiences in Little Rock and her meeting her husband Ed at the University of Tennessee, and then them making the move to Lubbock and her early work with the Garden and Arts Center and Parks and Recreation. Helen, also you were really well known for your volunteer work in Lubbock. You volunteered forever at First Baptist Church. I believe you ran the infant program there or served in it for decades. Know you have to have a lot of fond memories of that. You also were a Campfire Girl leader, and you were also an early children's librarian at the Godeke branch when Godeke Library was located right across from Lubbock High on 19th Street.
Right. That was my first job with the city, was as assistant children's librarian. And then after Katrina was born and I quit to stay home with her, I still volunteered and told stories at Story Hour at the library there.
That library was replaced by Mahon after the tornado. I can't remember when Mahon was built. Mid 70s maybe?
Can't remember the time either.
Okay. But what was the library is still, I think, a senior citizens center.
That's right.
Just south of Lubbock High.
Right.
So how many kids would you read to on an average week, or what was?
Well, the story hours usually were from 20 to 30 children at the story hours that were once a month.
And that was in the days before TV was just absolutely taking over.
Right.
might have had more people visiting the libraries then. What about your work with the Campfire Girls?
Well, I became a leader when Katrina was in fifth grade. I had been involved with them as bluebirds, but I wasn't the leader. I was just helped the leaders. But in fifth grade, I became Katrina's leader and stayed with the group until they graduated from high school. And when they graduated, then I took Carla's group, which was in junior high at the time, and I stayed with them until they graduated from high school. And while I was being a leader with them, I was also serving as one of the, well, I don't know, teachers or whatnot for the new leaders.
So what was that program like? I mean, I was in Boy Scouts, but tell me about the Campfire Girls. I remember they had a camp over in New Mexico, Camp Monaquewa.
Yes, and it got burned down last year,
Did it?
and that big fire was over there. Well, we had a whole list of different areas that the girls could work on, science and home and I've forgotten some of the other sports activity, and they would earn beads for the different jobs that they did in those different classifications. And the highest honor that they could ever receive was when they were in high school, they could get, Carla, what was the award? I've forgotten.
The
Wohelo medallion that they earned by doing service projects.
Very similar to Boy Scouts Eagle Award.
Okay, did you hear that?
I did. By the way, I should let our listeners know Helen's daughter, Carla Norwood, is also participating on this call. We're glad to have her perspective as well here. Tell us about your work at First Baptist.
Well, I worked in the infant nursery for 20 years, and there are some very well-known Lubbock people that I rock to sleep.
I'm sure that's true. You probably have some stories you could tell there.
Well, probably.
Yeah, that's all right. Now, you also developed a little bit of a ministry in terms of making Christmas stockings. Talk with us about how you got into that and what that was all about.
I don't really know how I got into it, except that someone from Butler's came to First Baptist and apparently asked for or said they'd like to have some stockings for the children there. And so I made them for a few years. I don't know how many each year, but as many as they needed. And then after they no longer had the need for it, and much later, when Gilbert Herrera started ministry, I made them for his ministry. And the last 2 or 3 years, it was 50 stockings.
Anybody ever do something that really surprised you? What was the best gift you ever saw somebody give to the Arboretum or the Garden and Arts Center?
Oh, well, there was one family, and I can't remember the name of it now, that gave about over a dozen different trees at one time.
They'd still be there providing shade today.
Some of them are certainly there. There's a huge elm tree at the corner of the Arboretum that was one of theirs.
All right. Well, thanks for taking time to talk with us about the many ways you were involved in the community.